shit. The documentary is, right? I don't know. It's just
More
easier.
discourse, less
Huh?
rah rah or like weeping.
Yeah, I guess it's just more like realistic talk here, and I like that, I guess, as opposed to like speculation here and speculation there, and this could be that, and everything's so dreary, and you know, if you don't listen to me, you're all stupid, or those who didn't listen to me are stupid. Like, I don't think anybody really cares about that shit. Honestly, I don't think we're really trying to find the golden fucking nugget here and hinging it on some Telegram person to come fucking tell us about it, right? Like, that's not the case. If you have something of substance, get out on Telegram and start telling people about it. But speculating about a bunch of shit and acting like you're right, and then telling everybody to go buy shit, like literally financial advice to people, is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen. And the fact that people buy into it, very risky, man. Very fucking risky.
I don't know. Doesn't there seem like there's certain types of people in this space that kind of line up as if like they want to be told like where to go
Uh,
next and what to do next? I mean, I don't know.
yeah, and the people that tell them what to do next and what to buy, instead of just telling them how shit works and to make their own decisions on their own, are the ones that prey on those people.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like a vicious cycle because you have the types of people that like they don't want to make their own decision and like hang their hat on it. They want like you to make the decision and they'll hang their hat on like you saying it instead of like owning it. I don't know. It's weird.
I see it like this, like through your life, you think that you're making all your own decisions most of the time, I'm sure. However, what you don't realize is that as soon as you're walking down your straight path and you come across anybody in your life that opens their mouth and gives an opinion to you about whatever it is, you now have a fork in the road, whether you fucking like it or not. And I mean that with all seriousness. You have a choice to make. Listen to their opinion and tell them in all respect to fuck off with it and continue to keep moving down this new fork that said, yes, you met this person, big deal. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. Or you go down this other path. You let their opinion affect you and you change something, anything, as minute as it may be in your life, to adhere to this person's opinion, and you take a different path. And now your whole everything is now changed, whether you like it or not. And you're going to come across people all the time, every day, maybe potentially expose yourself 100 different times a day to all different various opinions. And in these types of chat rooms, the people that you listen to, you could be in there for hours and literally tell yourself, fool yourself, that you're literally in there for entertainment's sake. However, how many people did you listen to? How many people did you actually hear say something that made you think past, ha ha ha, I'm here for entertainment? But now you think about whatever it is. Whatever you're thinking about isn't technically maybe even what the person that you heard the whatever it was from, there, it wasn't their intention, because what you're going to be thinking about is going to be directly correlated to how you live your life and how it affects you. And this is what you're thinking about now. And now it might change multiple things in the path that you're taking, even though you're sitting stationarily still in your chair, just listening to people, thinking that you were just there for entertainment's sake. Now, suddenly, you're in another room parroting some bullshit that you heard because it affected you and you actually changed your life. It may be positive, right? Like, I listened to these people tell me about Hex, and I got into Hex when it was 3 cents, and now it's $3. And man, am I happy that I listened to those guys. That was a really good story. I'm glad that my life changed that day. Or I got involved with some things that immediately, as soon as I put my 10 grand into it, they pulled the liquidity on me, and I found out what a rug pull was today. I wish I never ever listened to those fucks ever. and I'm going to go out and be the loudest person that there is to tell everybody about it. And I want to make sure that I am now stomping on people's paths as they walk across me to make sure that they heard my opinion. Hopefully they decided to take the right path when I did that. Some people may go, I want to make sure that I'm the loudest motherfucker to stomp on everybody's path so that they follow me and me alone. Shit on everybody else, and I'm going to take them down this risky path and tell them that it's all okay until it's not. And I'll gain the advantage.
So like that's more, I don't know, maybe Machiavellian is a way to describe that. And I don't know, I don't want to say it's understandable, but maybe that's like more relatable to people, or at least you could see why people would really kind of get motivated to do that sort of thing. But I think it's more interesting to think about the people that are feeding that person and kind of relinquishing themselves to them, and saying like, you know, fill my cup, so to speak, and like why those people feel the need to like do that.
Well, I mean, yeah. Or under the, like, imagine that you had somebody that was like, I've made 100 millionaires just because I spoke one time at a place. Wouldn't you want to be one of those 100 people just because you want to listen to me? And even though it's absolute bullshit, people are going to believe it. They will.
Yeah, but that like makes you feel like, I don't know, like you're definitely preying on some like interesting things, like in terms of like the person you're saying that to. And it's kind of weird. Like you almost, you get like I don't know, it's weird.
Well, because sometimes doing that is a lot easier.
Like it almost hurts. And then you'd be like, ah, shit, like maybe I do have to listen to this guy, you know?
Well, okay.
Then you
to figure out how
like that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you just got to be careful, right? Like, even if you do go listen to people, like maybe take a, okay, you go out, you got a stain on the floor, right? You don't go buy some product and then disregard that the product tells you that you should use a small surface somewhere else to make sure you're not ruining your fucking carpet, right? So if you see something that makes sense to you, maybe take a small development of the plan and put it towards something that you might do, but don't throw in your whole everything into it. Not until you've proven it to yourself that the shit works in some sort of way, right? That just makes too much fucking sense.
Well, it's one thing to like just straight up adopt someone's pattern of thinking, but I guess it's even worse when the person kind of sends you into a maze where, and I think this is kind of what you were getting at, to where like the individual feels like they're making decisions or certain evaluations or concessions, but meanwhile they're in a maze that someone else has kind of set up for them that has a predetermined destination or whatever. I guess all mazes have, you know, it's got an end, but yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, the one thing that surprised me, like, I don't know, maybe it was like three years ago or more, where I had a buddy that was like, just go to Google and type in how to make a shit coin and then find out how easy it is. And there's like so many videos that'll just teach you how to do it within 20 minutes and how much money that you need to be able to do it. And you don't even have to actually like go in and do all the effort to be so vocal to go explicitly yourself, go tell everybody about it. Like you can just buy up Twitter bots and buy up fucking exchange people to go around and do all the shit for you and go hit however many stars. And it only costs you like $10 to get like 1,000 comments across Twitter to be able to have hashtag whatever the fuck it is on the thing. And $6,000 later, you've got a fully formed fucking scam coin. $6,000. That's it. It's insane, right? And I always found that interesting. Like, how many people do go out and do that? And it's like 15,000 tokens on the Ethereum network. How many of them are actually honest? Not many at all. The majority of them have probably watched those 15-minute videos. And so it makes me really weary to people come out and be like, come and get involved in this new thing that we just made, right? And don't worry about liquidity and all these things, or even convince people to be liquidity provider. A bunch of people have no idea what the fuck they're doing on it in the first place. Have them go out and provide liquidity to be exit liquidity. I don't know. I don't like it. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the stuff that's going on. I think Richard was right on point with the fact that there's going to be a lot of that stuff that happens because it's so fucking easy to do, and for someone to just run away with people's money. And I've seen it happen to people, and tried my damnedest with other people to try to help protect them, and even tried to develop plans to be able to extract value out of other things to be able to get these people back on their feet again after like a 48-hour suicide watch because they got hacked or some shit, or they got convinced to give over their keys in some sort of way and they lost everything because of it. And I've never really been a proponent of the scam people and their shit, and I get my blood boils a little bit with a lot of the stuff that I see because I don't like it. Yeah, like I said, very easy to be able to go out and do it and participate. Extremely risky. Like you'll end up with your fucking head on a stick if you fuck over certain people. Like they will track you down. They'll bypass your VPN. They'll hunt you down. They'll find you, and they'll fucking kill you. Right? And I mean this because I've actually seen these types of things happen before in our own damn community. I'm not going to get to who they were because they're dead now, but I mean, it has certainly happened. So you got to be very.
Actually, I don't know. That makes me pretty happy that there's some sort of justice going on.
Yeah, me too. It was scary to see, right? And then knowing some of the people that were involved, it was funny to watch them scurry. I don't wish on anybody, but man,
yeah, that's why I never fuck anybody over, because you don't know if you fuck someone over 20 years from now, they'll get you back. And you're gonna be like, because that's the way I would do it. If someone fucked me over, I would just wait 20 years.
I mean, not to be so crass, but it makes me think of the Dumb and Dumber, or the second one, or whatever it was, where he pulls the prank on his buddy and he sits in the wheelchair acting like he couldn't speak and he was a vegetable for 20 years as a prank joke, and says that I got you.
Yeah, I just saw that.
That guy's that was a different joke though. That was like, that's a true Mexican, right? 20-year commitment.
Yeah, on the last day, he sends his hex to the OA address or something.
That would be fucked up. To the black hole address. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's like, huh? You thought I had a 15-year stay. Good one.
Haha. So I'm all that crap, right? From telling anybody what to do and how they should manage themselves and all that stuff, other than telling people just to do their research as best as they possibly can and to make their own fucking decisions. Like, somebody came over and made you think about something, still think about it in your own perspective, right? Don't ape in and throw away your whole 401k into something that isn't even capable of giving you a history or anything, even educate yourself on it, especially something that just sprouted out like a week ago or 2 weeks ago or some shit, right? Which I'm seeing happening like more and more within the past few months, of people like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. It's like, show me proof. Oh, you don't have any? Okay. All right, fine. Tell me how it works. Oh, you don't know? Well, that's great. So you just got a bunch of huff and puff into the air, and that's it. Like you're literally the kid over there punching fists in the air and hitting nothing at that point. Like, give me some substance, something to work with at least, right? That makes sense of it. And that's where the realm that I like to play around in. That's it, right?
Hey, Executioner,
What's up, man?
what do you think is like the next, like, I don't know if it's a thing or not, but like a marketing move for Hex in a way? Like, I know, like, there's people doing the postcards, like there's the movie coming out, but so far, like, all the exchanges, like CoinMarketCap and all those sites, they have Hex on, like, like ranked 200. What do you think, like, another exposure could come from that? People would see Hex. Like, is there like the recent cars or whatever? Or?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think probably the best thing, I think I said this earlier, would be to maybe try to get on an exchange. And don't sue CoinMarketCap for fuck's sake. That ain't gonna get us any brownie points, right? Like, yeah, they're restricting the situation for whatever reason why it may be. Let's try to fix that. Let's try to fix that understanding and get out there where they can put us out into 100,000 eyes or more, million eyes or more, without us having to go through so much effort. That would probably be more beneficial because, I mean, as much as we all are against centralized exchanges because of, not your keys, not your coins, we're not going over there. We're going to keep doing the shit that we're doing and probably still telling people even from those exchanges when they actually have an availability to get in contact with us in some sort of way, that they should be involved more in the decentralized side of it than putting themselves at risk through, centralized exchanges. And that's fine, right? More involvement means higher success rate. As a matter of fact, I think that we just recently went from like 300,000 holders to 500,000 holders. So, I mean, there's people coming in, right? And I mean, that's pretty big, right? I mean, I remember seeing it at one time where it was less than like 15,000 stakers. The share rate was a hell of a lot lower, but I mean, now it's a hell of a lot more, right? And those were the types of understandings for going and onboarding people at that time. There's going to come a time where these numbers are way bigger, and you want to make sure that you are in while this number says what it is now, because it's going to get bigger. Now, where and when those things happen, I can't tell you, Bandit. Like, I wish I could, but I don't really know. There are like things that are happening, like you had said already, like the movie coming out might give some exposure, but I don't believe that movie is like a puff piece for Hex either, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I think it's more of like the generalized view of what happens through the cycle of the markets with a currency and some of the people that were involved. You're probably going to see like people partying in Vegas with staker apps out and showing millions of dollars of availability, and then the 52-cent top, and then now down to the 3 cents that we're currently at, and people fucking acting like idiots type shit, right? And then maybe even a release of another movie after that, where you can see what happens with the community through the beginning of a whole new market cycle, right? Like, they have the potential to do those types of things if they wanted to. I've just never seen the movie. I'm just kind of speculating based off of what I've heard from RG3 and Kinetics and Toby Wan, some of the guys that were actually involved with the movie. Pulse Chain is definitely going to be a good thing for all people that are currently involved with Hex, in my opinion, just because of the costs, right, of being able to actually transact. But even Pulse Chain is going to have to have participation. It's going to have to for it to be successful as well. As you can see, almost all L1 chains do have a sizable amount of profit in which they actually assume. But I guess it's up to the individual to manage whether that's a success or not. Hell, I would have to say that that there's a portion of hexagons that would have to say that currently at 3 cents that it's already a smashing success. And the potential, as long as it's not dead, the potential to get through these market cycles, which would be like one of the worst, most devastating bear markets that's happened in quite a while, to have any survivability through that in the assets that you hold and not lose continued value over long periods of time is success, because you're not dead and you're going to go through the next cycle, which means that's good for everybody that's currently involved with anything that they're investing in that didn't just die through that market cycle, especially one of these ones. Like, it's almost bullish to see that Hex hits this point and just starts riding pretty much sideways right across that. So it makes me bullish. I will admit there was a point in time that even I was like, fuck, if I wish it would just go to a penny. And you guys, strike me for saying that, I guess, right? I would like more better buying opportunities as well, right? Call me a stupid hexagon, I guess. But for right now in the bear market, best opportunity to have that happen. Having that happen in a bull market, fuck, that's bad. That'd be so bad. So bad. Like, you can't have it you can't lose. If you lose 95% in the bull market, you are fucked. And we haven't seen that shit happen, so I'm pretty happy where we're at right now. A lot of other people that are very confused and want to FUD and say all sorts of shit like they forgot there was a bear market. But I just don't see that happening. And I see that when we come through it and we get more green candles and we start moving up, just like everything else will in the next cycle, that we're going to go from 500,000 stakers or 500,000 holders and over 100,000 stakers or whatever that is. Now I paid attention to that, to even higher numbers of people that are already in it without having to do all these other shenanigans and other things with, like I said, centralized exchanges and paying people to get more exposure and stuff like that. Us as a community could do all that stuff if we wanted to. Hell, we raise money for all sorts of stupid shit. You have to pay one of the higher centralized exchanges to just be like, just list us. We're not doing your fucking paperwork. Have some money, have some hex, put us on there, shut the fuck up. We're done, right? This is it. Get us off page 201. Put us on the top 10 where we should be, or top 20 or whatever it is per market cap. And we'll just keep running forward from there. Right? That's fine. People already understand the S-load function. Okay, I get it. There's probably going to be a sizable amount of ETH that you're going to need on the Ethereum network. Maybe not. Right? On the roadmap that they have this general understanding, and maybe it might even be a fantasy in some respect, to be able to utilize the sharding mechanism, that they would be able to maybe change how their securities ran and not have to use this S-load function as a thing. Right? And then everything that everyone was saying is no longer even an environment that we're in on this network, and it doesn't even need to be a thing. But for right now, that's majorly the reason why pulse chains come into existence in the very first place. Not just because of gas fees in it of itself, just to buy and sell shit is expensive. Like when it was $150 just to move from one of your wallets to another one of your wallets in a send. The S-load function for the staking process, like that's the big one, right? That's where we need something to happen and have a fix happen. I went really far into that, Banda. I apologize. But
what if there was
sorry, I was listening.
What if there was some coin that, kind of like the other coin that just launched, that just increased gas prices? Yeah, never mind. That's a bad idea. Never mind.
Like, you're talking about DDoSing the network, Kevin. I know where your head was going with that, to try to force them to do
Yeah, then I realized X is on that network, and I was like, wait.
But I mean, Richard's kind of right when he says proof of DDoS with that thing. I mean, it was quite effective, but not effective enough to actually say that that's true. Gas prices on that shit went back down to a reasonable thing. Like, people aren't going to just keep doing that shit. Eventually, it'll lose its flavor, I guess.
And the coin is doomed because I mean, it's very possible they never reach, you know, like the funding curve or whatever isn't sharp enough that it will inflate forever. And as gas prices tend to get lower, they should, that would make sense. I don't know, to me, even though they haven't gotten lower, it's going to make less and less sense. It'll be more inflationary.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, man, excuse me. I just want them to, like, I don't know. I like utility. I like to do stuff with it other than just sell it, right? If I have time in a market to invest, I want it to be like an investment other than just speculating on price to go up because people came in and bought. That's like a direct, to me, that is a pyramid scheme to do it that way. Like, now I'm only onboarding people, not because they can actually do something with the shit that I'm bringing them into. It's all just a speculative Fugazi move where when I brought them in, I'm using them to be able to pump the price just so I can sell finally. Like, that's a sizable amount of work to do. At least with Hex, you can do the same thing if you wanted to do that, by onboarding large amounts of money and knowing that those green candles are coming and maybe extracting some value from the work that you just did to get these people in. Not saying cause big red candles afterwards. That would be dumb to do to yourself in an investment that you plan on being in for a while, right? For a long while. And I feel that way because I watched it go to 50 some odd cents, like all the way through previous to pre-penny, all the way up to 52 cents. Like, you could have sold. Like, there was 30-40 million dollars in liquidity at those times. Like, there was more than availability for you to be able to extract value. Like, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. And watching that happen and being there while it was all happening and watching it happen, like, was very confident building to me, right? Like, there wasn't anybody saying, oh, you can't, well, other than like Bitcoiners that didn't know anything about Hex at the time and were just parroting each other on some bullshit they didn't know what they're talking about. Like, there was nobody saying these fudge things that you can easily go into another room and hear about right now, right? Like, the best time to shake people out for those that want to gain a higher advantage would probably be at the bear market, to really fuck people over and be like, look here, nothing else is doing anything. Come to me and invest in what I'm telling you to invest in, because this is going to be the next new thing. Like, that thing isn't involved in a bear market too. Like, because people don't understand market cycles. Well, I say people, but who are they? I don't know. Just whoever it is that comes in and just listens to that crap without, like, I guess they think it's all magic money or some shit, right? I don't know. See currency.
I'm checking the rankings of coin market cap and their competitors, and it looks like the best competitor is CoinGecko, and they're only ranked 2,000 when Coin Market's ranked 554, 43. I mean,
Wait, they have a rank? They have a ranking system for them?
like similarweb.com is just like ranks all the websites and how many visitors they have, and coin market cap is at 543. CoinGecko's at 1975. And they're much newer, so maybe they'll pass CoinMarketCap next bull market, maybe.
Yeah, we probably need to like be a little bit more attractive to those guys. And I know there's a lot of hexagons in the community, or probably even the majority of hexagons in the community that feel like, you know, centralized exchanges are the devil and we need to stay away from them and all those things. In a lot of ways, they're not wrong. But I mean, while all the scammers are getting away with fucking all this shit, like why not just do the same thing they are and be able to progress even faster or further than we ever did before? The OA already holds 90% of the availability of all the coins. Like, it's not like we're going to lose an advantage there, where now they can control the liquidity and the market itself in Hex, right? Because at any point in time, the OA can go provide liquidity and take over at that point. It's kind of a security measure, right? And if it has been providing liquidity like it should be doing with the majority of the supply to be able to protect it, then it would be providing liquidity to be able to gather up stable coins too on the other side and have a large stack to be able to protect both sides of the coin, right? Like I've heard some people, oh, he's got 90% of the supply, and everyone's like, yes, well, it's to help protect the coin. And then the narrative is now, well, how are you going to be able to protect the price when you're holding all the asset? You can't sell Hex for Hex. Like I've literally heard people say that. It's like, dude, for real? Like if you're providing liquidity, even in your fees, you're earning both Hex and USDC, or Hex and ETH, or Hex and whatever the fuck it is that you got it paired to. And if the price goes down in any way, you're going to be losing some of those stables that you had, and you're going to be buying those things. And if the price goes up, like if you do these things through market cycles, then you're going to end up on the best end possible, where now you're holding on to a large amount of value and no longer holding on to the coin. But if you take a certain amount of it, a percentage of it that you have, then you can extract the value without actually market selling and dumping red candles on your community, if that was the case. And now you've got a large stack of the other side to be able to protect it whenever you want it. So that way, some, like I said, entity, exchange that comes in and provides liquidity isn't able to actually control where the prices are available to go. They can pump and dump whenever they want to be able to do that. They do have large amounts of money. What they don't have is your coin to be able to get the other side of the token. Well, if you are something like an entity like the OA, then you'd be able to have a large percentage of the actual asset that you have without actually begging somebody for it. And through Uniswap, be able to provide the other side of the coin to give you more and more security in protecting the availability of where the price can go. And also not shutting out other people from being able to come in and buy the coin, because you're actually stocking your fucking shelves to make sure that you are a good store to come to in the first place. And providing more and more liquidity means less and less availability to actually lose value on the purchase in the first place. And then now you actually have both sides, so you can become a market maker yourself. Most of us just go work our jobs, gather the money, go get the coin, get a lot of it. If that was the case, like I said, sometimes to be able to efficiently be able to provide liquidity in any sort of way, especially if it's got millions of dollars of available liquidity, is you have to have about $100,000. Most people don't have that, so they shouldn't probably be providing liquidity because they're putting themselves at risk. You're not actually controlling any of the market, so you can't consider yourself a market maker, and you're putting yourself at risk with maybe a lot of variables that you don't understand. The good thing about it is you've got a staking mechanism, something that actually gives you more money than the fees that you would have got for doing the low amount of liquidity that you're providing in the first place. So you can just go stake it, make 38% APY, or go stake your Hedron or your Icosa that also is on top of the whole thing that allows for you to be able to get more of that asset too, which you could provide liquidity for any of those if that was the case, and get the other side of the coin.
Yeah, I staked some Icosa yesterday, and I'm making like, I mean, just in that one day, that doesn't include the auctions and all that, I'm making 100% APY. I guess
Yep.
that'll probably change after the full year, but
I mean, if the APY even went down to anything higher than 38%, it's still advantageous to put your money there to be able to get more of the other asset, in my opinion. Especially if you're already staked with Hex and you're staked with Icosa and you're staked with Hedron, then you're really setting yourself up for the availability through a market cycle that you already know is coming to be able to do whatever the fucking silly willy-nilly thing that you want to do later. And everyone else will shut the fuck up about all their bearish sentiments anyway. They won't even know what to say. Everything they said will be shoved right back down their throats. And it'll be verified at that point in time that they shouldn't have been listened to. And maybe they didn't even care. They already got people in the positions where they wanted them to be anyway through the bear market. And that was what their intentions were. Maybe. I don't know.
one cool thing I like about Icosa is that it basically has unlimited buying liquidity, because somebody could come in. I mean, obviously you don't want to be dumb about it. You don't want to buy unless you have some other ulterior motive, but you don't want to buy too much at one time. But you could buy it up to the ceiling or a little bit above it, and then wait for people to print Icosa and drive the price down, and then do it all over again. Like you could literally do that forever, and it would like create a vacuum in the Hex ecosystem of people just making 15-year stakes and then printing Icosa with it, which helps. If you're a Hexagon, that helps you too. Anyways, like maybe that's the whole goal here. But I was just thinking, I wonder if there's a way to reverse that so that a token has unlimited selling liquidity.
That would be dependent on the incentives for when price did go down, that it caused for you to see the incentive, like, I don't know, 100% APY right now, specifically.
I mean, like you could say that some tokens have unlimited. They have something like that, and they're incentivized to sell it just because it's inflationary, and then you could say they're incentivized to buy it just because it's deflationary and it pays you interest. But Icosa, its selling mechanism ceiling is just arbitrage. Like a bot could do this, could make money doing just arbitraging. Okay, if price above here, sell. Print Icosa, and so. But I wonder if there's a way to create an opportunity for a token that would arbitrage the other way around, that would put a floor rather than a ceiling.
I always viewed the floor as 0.
Yeah, but I mean, like, like, I remember I bought a token that went to literally 0. I put like $300 into Mooncoin, and then like 3 months later or something, it got delisted off the only exchange that it was. And I'm pretty sure it was like one of the first like rug pulls ever, because this was like 2018 or something. And I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna buy everything in the bear market and everything will be great. Nothing can go to 0, right? Yeah, because it's not listed anywhere. But yeah, then Uniswap happened, and it's like, can anything really go to 0? Because it doesn't even make sense to sell it when it's in the gas price. When it costs more to sell it, more in gas than it does to sell it. And everything's kind of like a logarithmic inverse function. So like it really can't go to 0. unless there's some, like structural problem with Ethereum or the token itself.
I don't know if Hedron started heading back to like 6 zeros into something, I would be extremely incentivized to pump a lot of money into it because I know that those liquidations are coming. Like it'd give you so much more availability of competition at that point in time. Like I don't even think that the price could go down there because that would happen like psychologically with a lot of people. Imagine being able to buy 1 billion tokens for $1,000.
What do you think the chances, like realistically, of let's say like the God Whale trying to get in on these auctions and potentially scooping up a lot of it?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I would think that if that was the case, the intention would probably be to maybe recycle them back into the system again, keeping people playing the game. Instead of providing liquidity and doing the rest of it, you could just do that with liquidity that you just had without using Uniswap in this other market. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that, I guess, a whole lot. Like, because that does become like the next question, pretty much me just saying like what I think that would possibly happen. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's what would happen, right? Like, what if you just held on to them, didn't turn them back in? That's fine. There's still an arbitrage moment that happens where people are still, because of that, people are turning in HSIs every day. I think the other day I saw like 6 of them that came in one day. There is a Hedron bots channel that you can see the Icosa contract like borrowing from HSIs when people turn them in. So you could like count. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that have went in today alone. And so far, like the auction hasn't had that type of movement happening with it every day.
Dude, one of them that was sent today was over either I saw one that was 1.6 million, and then I saw another one for 250,000 hex, 15 years. Boom, right in the contract.
Yeah, like a borrowed amount of 1 billion Hedron is quite a big stake to have. I see another one that's 3.3 billion borrowed, 3.1 billion borrowed, 1.26 borrowed, 790 billion, excuse me, 790 million, 1.6 billion. It's quite a bit. Those are some pretty big stakes, and they're still coming in every day because of that availability to get Icosa. And
Yeah, super pumped.
Yeah.
Well, this is a game like, playing in the staking pools and Hedron and Icosa, you're just like really betting on like people adapting this as like the way that we really like view hacks, and like, we're all trading shares and stuff. Like having an early portion in that pool and just having a nice stake sit in those, like there's gonna be more people that come in. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw like another billion amount of hex over the next like year or two being put in through the Icosa contract and just rat for 15 years.
I think that there's definitely some people that know something that's going on that even I wasn't like completely 100% aware of. Like when Hedron first launched and HSIs were being made and being tokenized and sold on OpenSea, there was one particular individual named Little Luigi that was buying all of them all of all the HSIs that would come up there, he would put out an offer, and those that didn't agree to his offer, he probably didn't purchase those, or they were so asinine, or the person just didn't respond. But this guy, this particular individual, was buying up almost every single one that was coming up on the market. Like they knew that there was going to be some availability to be able to use these HSIs, or they were just taking advantage of the bonuses that were on almost every single one of them at that time. Within the first 100 days, he was already buying them from people. And I was noticing it was just pretty much him. There was obviously maybe other people that were, but it was pretty significant to like go through there and track this guy and like see what he was doing. It was kind of neat. And I was like, I wonder what he knows. Like, it's kind of smart, right? Like, he doesn't even have to go buy hex and do all this. And he can just have all these HSIs and pretty much just have all these stakes like what everyone else would do and get all this APY for just having these things and be able to freely mint Hedron or borrow from him or whatever the hell he wanted to do at any point in time. And a couple of us were kind of like, I wonder what's going on here. And then Icosa comes out and I'm like, man, if that guy didn't know something. Right. And I'm not saying that like he did know something, but the fact that he went through all that trouble and did all that, like he was kind of ahead of the game of everybody else at that point to be able to utilize them, not only just for the staking benefits of getting APY from having a stake, but to utilize the HSI as a tokenized form to be able to use the buyback function as an actual fucking currency to be able to get Icosa. Like, did he even know? I highly doubt it, but he was making a good fucking move. And then now you have people that are going out and buying Wattses, right? And maybe they're making a smart move too.
Dude, literally after one day I was shilling as I normally do. I saw a wallet and it made like $50,000 in purchases of Wattses off the market. Like there's a couple people with a lot of money who really like Wattses and they like the billion points. If you go on OpenSea right now, almost none are reasonably priced. The best price one I think is like 299 per million points or something, or 290, and everything else is like $5.
It doesn't really surprise me because a lot of those people that are selling them probably either, I don't know, they did it intentionally to be able to try to extract that value and they're okay with that. They made that decision psychologically and they were fine with it. Or they're living the daily life of seeing what their current yield is and they're like, I don't like this. I don't understand why people are so hyped up about these things. It's only $54, 54 M points when I started it, and I'm only getting like however many Icosa that is per day, a fraction of one, maybe. I'm not even really sure.
It's about 20% like per million in terms of Icosa right now.
Okay, cool. And they just don't respectfully like see what they actually have there or understand the mechanics of it. They just knew that there was a 14-day window and they needed to make these things, and people were telling them that it's going to be the best thing that they had, and not realize that through the mechanics of our understanding that through time in utilizing these things that it will be right.
There's a lot of Icosa and Hedron staked, and people will emergency end stake just like they did in Hex. And Wattses is a great way to catch a lot of that yield.
I think some people are confused about the minimum staking length, right? Because everyone's used to just staking length and that's it. I think they totally don't their ears aren't open when they hear the word minimum. So then they I don't know. Hopefully it's not that confusing and it causes for those types of things to happen because of that. I think we try to be as clear as we possibly can when we just tell people in the regular chat and in here in the voice chat, like how it all actually works. So hopefully that's not the case, but yeah, high amount of yield and someone seeing that what they can do or be able to extract value at that time. Yeah, I agree with you, Mike, that people might do that.
Dude, if we see another 10x and somebody's halfway through their stake, they will consider emergency end staking and nuking half their stack because the number went up.
I know
Even though they're losing 50% of their money on another 10x, I know a lot of people will emergency end stake. People don't set themselves up right all the time, and like I always keep a little bit of liquid, short stake, long stake. Like I always set myself up, but most other people don't. And as soon as they see a 10x, boom, nuke. Got to cash out. Got to run.
Who said that they knew that they would?
Right here, yeah, I know. If I'm halfway through and that thing 15x, yeah, I'm probably taking some of that.
But you have to
You
nuke
have to-
half your stack.
I think he understands.
Yeah,
that.
whatever.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
oh,
fine.
but you still would see, like, and like because you're still up, like it's like a 7x, and
Yeah, I'm not
like
getting. Yeah, exactly. I'm not getting too greedy on that. Just
I would say, first of all, thank you for your service for that and understanding of what you're doing before doing it and just doing it regardless. I mean, that's kind of the reason why those things are there, right? Not all the time is it that very understanding that the reason why someone would do that.
half of that gets burnt, by the way, when you do that. Like half of the stack that you lose, half of that half. So like a quarter of your entire stake, assuming half was penalized, that all gets burnt.
It's in proportion to how long you've actually been in the state.
Yeah, in proportion. If it was half, yeah.
If you happen to have done it and you were exactly at half of the stake, then that would be the case. But if he was 70% of the way through, then he's only going to lose 30% of his principal and 30% of his interest. He even gets the interest too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it may be even more incentivizing for people to do it, if they understand those terms, right? And they're further than 50% through, because now if, it's a 10x, they're still at an 8.5.
Yeah.
So,
and then just less hedron in the pool that's staked too. So your portion, like if you have a billion hedron today, I think that over time, I think that a billion hedron is going to grow in the pool size. It's gonna be harder for people to have a billion hedron.
Alex actually made mention of those things earlier, like when he used to have time to come into these things with us, and said that people are going to utilize those early in-stake functions to their benefit, and people are going to push buttons and do those things, and it isn't always going to be to the detriment of somebody getting hacked or somebody making a mistake because they didn't understand what they were doing. This is going to be people knowing exactly what they're doing and doing these things to their advantage. And that's why he kept them. That's why they're there, to be able to have people utilize that in their plan, right? Even if it was at the beginning.
It kind of like the question or the point that I was making, whatever. How could you make a floor? The Wattas have a pretty good floor. Nobody's gonna sell those for less than they're worth. Nobody's gonna panic sell one of those.
It's true. That is true.
I'm waiting for my pictures. I don't care about the pictures, but other people care about the pictures, which thus in turn pumps my bags. I want pictures. People like pretty pictures.
too bad there wasn't some sort of feature on that where you could pay to input your own picture choice, right? I don't know. I think it'd be neat.
I think that it falls into you don't want to have somebody putting nudity.
Oh yeah,
profane things. There has to be a limit. So unfortunately, there has to be some sort of developed control to not allow for you to have OpenSea strike against you and not allow for you to be able to do market stuff on their front end because of that, violating their whatever it is, right?
But yeah, somebody is developing an NFT airdrop, I think, of all the Wattas to Watta holders, if I'm not mistaken.
You're saying that I should separate all my Wattas into different wallets right now? potentially.
No, I think you're. I mean, I've seen some guy talking about how he's making art for Watsas. I'm assuming you'd get a different NFT for each Watsa, not for each address.
That sounds good to me. I don't have to make 100 addresses. Thank you.
That's cool. I'd like to see what happens there, I suppose. God,
Like, who wants to do that, man? Like, because you know people are gonna put their Watsas in cold storage and shit. Like, don't make us make 100 cold storage wallets.
There's so many. I've never have I ever seen so many random ideas about building stuff on top of something else like I have with the Watsas. Like the potential here is like all sorts of shit gets made. Like how crazy would that be that the people who are holding Watsas end up like just having people throw in all sorts of shit at them for some crazy fucking reason. That would be
I
fun.
think it's good. I think Watsas are the greatest Trojan horse that's ever existed for Hex because people love stupid pictures that are JPEGs. Now imagine stupid pictures that are JPEGs that actually earn you yield and earn you money. Like now they were going to have to find out about us, and now they're going to have to find out about Hex.
I'm just glad that okay, so Alex said one day when the big PP thing was happening with the rage marketing of Richard Hart, he says to me a DM of a real DM of real Alex, not some fake one. I want to make a meme coin, and I was like, what? And I was like, why? Like, what do you mean you want to make a meme coin? And he called it Hemdrom, right? I'm just glad that he didn't choose Hemdrom for the Watsa thing, and that he chose Watsa instead. I had no idea that that's what his intention was to actually do. Right? It's not actually create a meme coin, but to make like this whole new thing, like the Watsas are, instead.
Oh, what a good name, by the way! Like Watsa, like it's such a good name once you get into it. Oh yeah, Kevin, you were saying it. You're like you think like people are Watsa.
It's catchy. What?
Makes me think of the Muppets. That one Muppet.
Yeah, yeah.
The piano bear. Yeah. Somebody needs to go make that meme. Somebody is making it already. I can guarantee it. Yeah, there were people.
Do you guys realize we could see like up to like 800 times what we're making daily come these on the high end come this auction? It's gonna be nuts, guys.
Especially for the people that are like staked in the Icosa staking pool, the Hedron staking pool, and have Watsas, they're gonna just get onslaughted. They're gonna be DDoSed in their yield. They're not gonna know what the fuck to do. None of you guys are gonna know what the fuck to do.
Onslaught me harder.
I'm buying
Daddy.
a lot of shares, dude.
Spank me, daddy.
Once all you dumb schmucks go and dump all your Hedron, I'm gonna go and steal all of these fucking HSIs for pennies on the dollar. That's what's gonna happen.
Well, and then the cool thing is when people take yield and they stop participating because they're like, I've got the advantage and here I go. I'm gonna take profit. Like everyone else's yield's gonna go up as soon as those people do that. It's gonna give you more of an incentive to stay put.
And we also have Watsas on the other chains, right?
Yep. Everything is getting copied. As long as it's the same contract address, which it should be, which it will, then it'll all be copied over.
Yeah, it's already copied, right?
Maybe some people are playing that game like where they're trying to get as many HSIs just for the fucking snapshot too. Like I'll be real, I would rather have like if I could afford 1,000 T shares through this HSI because I have a lot of Hedron or something, like I'm a whale, I would want to have it on both chains. I don't want to just have it on Pulse. You know what I'm saying? So like these auctions like happening, they should even go for a higher price because like you want them for both snapshots.
Well, I mean, even the pool of all the HSIs that are coming up for liquidations on the liquidations auctions, whenever Pulse Chain decides to actually go active, all of those get copied over too. And you have two separate liquidation auctions going at the exact same time with all of your copied tokens for you to still participate in both of them on both networks. It'd be
Oh
tough
yeah,
to
that's awesome.
Whoa.
You better get yourself a second computer at that point if you want to actually participate, because that would be annoying as fuck to actually have to swap back through it on your one single computer. But yeah, a lot of things to think about. I just can't wait. I just can't wait till November, like what, 15th? Is that that's the first 000 UTC timeline after everyone's already done all their bids, that the final countdowns will hit? Well, no. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be the 16th. I think it all depends on when people actually initialize the default bid and the 24 hours starts. So there might be a couple that come out by then where you see yield and people might be like, imagine that, like everyone thinks that because it's already started that next 00 UTC is when all the yield will start hitting, and then it doesn't because there's still like thousands of them for people to go through and default and bid on and go through the 24-hour period and finalize the actual auction in the first place. And then it'll happen the next 00 UTC as far as what was actually burned in the finality of those auctions. So all that stuff has to happen first, and then yield can happen on the next 000 UTC. And then just start whopping people upside the fucking head with all the yield after that. Like, that's going to be fun to watch. And what I think it'll be fun to watch. And then what's even going to be more fun to watch is like maybe even some of the YouTube personalities. They're like, we're gonna like live stream this and like see how it's all going. And then they realize that this process just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going and going, and it just doesn't stop. It's going to be for days and days and days and days, 24-hour periods with this availability for you to go in and bid on thousands of these things and have the opportunity to win them. And it just doesn't stop because every day there's more of them getting tossed into the pile for you to go back through and default and start another 24-hour period on them again. And as far as what I'm seeing, that they're still coming in every day. So let's say we get to November 13th, November 14th, and they're still coming in every day. That means that it technically, it won't stop. At least for the next 90 days, it's going to continue to keep happening. With the yield.
That's what I've seen. There might have been a couple days like where there wasn't anything sent, but I saw one wallet that almost sent an HSI every day for the last 30 days. So seems like they're pretty much going to come out every single day. There might be a dry spell at some point, but it'll flood back in at another point.
And on top of it, so okay, so we've got the whole what happens in the front end of it, right? The liquidations happen, everyone starts getting increased yield, everyone's all excited about that, right? Do the HSIs that get won for whatever price that they were, do they get used again in the buyback function? If yes, the amount of yield that people saw on day one that they thought was astronomical and crazy on the amount of Icosa yield that they got, and the Hedron yield that they got because it was borrowing from those at the time, and then the bonuses that were attached to those for being 5555s or having a 10x on it could have been a 20% bonus that was going directly to the Watsa pool. So those who hold Watsas have an even further incentive to make sure that they're holding on to those things as these processes occur. And those are the ones that are going to be crossing their fingers going, God, I fucking hope that people turn these back into the buyback function and we get those bonuses hitting us again, right? Never mind the fact that people can end their stakes when they're done and just toss their copied bonus into the Wata pool, which is always, that's cool too. But in just the regular process of how the mechanics work, like when people do use that buyback function and it has any availability of a bonus on that particular HSI, like those who are holding Watsons are going to be very happy. Very happy.
And not to mention, if we can see Hex turn itself around a bit, right? Let's say it starts heading towards 10 cents, the whole time making it more desirable to get part with the system. And everybody's loving it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And having, like, when you go look at the pair inverted with Hex and Icosa, you can see that you're not losing the value, but when you're holding your Icosa, to being able to trade back into Hex, because the value of Icosa goes up as the share rate moves forward. So you'll be able to get that T share a hell of a lot easier by using that pair as it moves forward. Don't lose sight of that either.
Sorry, did you say Icosa's will, like, its price will go up with the T shares as that goes up?
Yes. Yeah, I already sent this picture out earlier, but I think it's scrolled.
Okay, I apparently I missed that fact. And
yeah, take a look at when the share rate jumps. Look what happens on the Hex Icosa pair. Let's discount the big red candle in the middle and the 2 days of recovery back to ceiling price again. But that is the direct, like, visual understanding of Icosa smacking the ceiling over and 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 over again. And this is a daily chart.
wow.
Right. So every time that share rate jumps up, which we just had a couple days ago, it jumped up like 700 or more. And then in 10 days, it's going to do it again. So you're not being diluted. You're not losing value through inflation. You're keeping right on par. So fuck the share rate at that point. Who cares if it moves forward? As long as you're holding on to Icosa, you'll be able to buy just as much Hex as you need to be able to capture those T-shares, because it's gaining that value in the T-share rate versus Hex, which Hex loses its own value against the T-share rate. Icosa does not. It allows for you to buy more Hex. Mike, we can hear you second on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
Icosa is like a Hex stablecoin.
For now, while supply is low. But I mean, it makes sense for liquidity providers to know. This is the thing. Is a liquidity provider, you don't have a fucking crystal ball that tells you where price is going to go. But as you can look at that chart that I just posted right there, you kind of do. Only with this one pair out of all the cryptocurrencies that exist. I've never seen anything like this, ever. So if you know where the price is going to be because it follows the share rate, then you as a liquidity provider, why the fuck would you provide liquidity in any other range other than right directly on top of where you know it's going to be? And there's a lot of people with a lot of Hex, and there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of Icosa. And then where are they going to put their liquidity? Right there on that price, to allow for arbitrage opportunity to happen for everybody. So somebody comes around and they just buy a bunch of it, cause a green candle, then you're going to be available to use the HSI buyback function to get your hands to some Icosa and sell the price right back down to where the ceiling price is. You're directly taking profit and extracting value right into your own pockets, and it's built for that, just for you, those who understand it. And if anyone sells the price down, it is technically at a discount, and it'll be bought right back up. Right to that
Or
price.
if not, if it takes a little bit, that's your like point of entry. Like if you know how the system works, like there's things that are really good for point of entry at different like points.
Well, the thing that makes it so easy to be able to do that and hold that ceiling price is the lack of supply. So as inflation happens, which we're about to have mechanisms to increase inflation quite a bit, then you're going to have more volatility. You generally would have more volatility with people selling right? People selling and people providing liquidity across all sorts of ranges of price, right? Which having it compared to USDC, that's totally different. Having it paired to Hex specifically is a whole different thing also. So people aren't going to be providing liquidity for Hex Icosa pairs in all different ranges. They're going to be slamming it right on top of where the price is currently. And when they know that the share rate is going to jump, which Crispy has hexfire.io, which does a really good job of being able to implement, like if the OA does into stake or if other big players do in their stake, that this is where the share rate will go. That means as a liquidity provider, you have a direct crystal ball that tells you where to move your liquidity before it happens, so you don't have an impermanent loss. So the whole entire time you're collecting fees, everybody's collecting fees by providing liquidity right directly on top of the ceiling price and allowing for people to do arbitrage, which actually brings more volume through their pairs in a 24-hour period. And it's safe. Like, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss to a certain respect, because as soon as somebody does come sell Icosa, like a big giant amount of it, it goes right out of the available thickness of the liquidity that's stacked right on the price and goes down below that liquidity. And now those people are buying thin fucking air. Nothing. They're buying nothing after they've done that to themselves. So yeah, you'll be able to extract a little bit of amounts into Hex. And the more liquidity, like if there's $10 million worth of Hex Icosa slapped right onto the price, and you go sell $500,000 worth of Icosa into Hex at that time, it'll be such a tiny little red candle that you were absolutely insignificant as fuck. Whatever you were doing didn't matter, right? Because it's all stacked right on the price, and the price isn't going to move. Right now, we don't even have that amount of liquidity, so there's going to be high volatility on the price movement going up and down, causing for you to be able to have a higher availability of arbitrage when you do see those things that happen. And it's going to smack it right back to that ceiling again. And we're just going to have those types of things happening because liquidity, the thickness of the liquidity, is all provided right in that range, right on those ranges. So it gets very volatile if you go too high and very volatile if you go too low. Like, there is no availability for the price to go lower than where the assets are being sold at, right? Eventually, you're just buying thin air. Like, you're losing a lot of value because you done sold too much. As a matter of fact, there's Uniswap that tells you this is a bad deal, bro. You should not do this. There's not liquidity far enough for you to be able to sell price into that. We'll let you do it if you hit confirm, but it's not going to be good. You're going to lose 15, 20% of value if you do that. Nobody's that dumb. Nobody's going to just do that anyway, unless they're on testnet and they don't care, right? But this isn't testnet. This is your real money. This is your real money. Your hard work. So yeah, it's fun
And not to mention the fact that Hedron was born in a bear market. Look at how well it's done in this bear market, guys. Like, it's gonna go insane in the bull, right? So we're so early still too. So before I step down for the night, I just want to say thank you to you guys, Hexecutioner and Watsa there. Just on all your help and patience and any kind of questions, man. And yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anytime.
Yeah, keep it up. Keep up this hard work, guys. You know, it's gonna be
Absolutely.
great.
I'm excited. Shit, I'm all in, dude. I'm like actually like so far in, I'm almost like uncomfortable talking about it. Yeah.
Don't put your Wattses up for less than $3. Otherwise, he's gonna buy that shit from you, and you're gonna be making.
If you did put up one for $3, like, and you got a bid for less, that was probably me. No.
All the way $4 more per M point. He's buying your shit.
I think it's like one of those plays like where it's just so it's so silly when, like, you know, my one buddy's in Hex and he loves shares. He did 15-year stakes. He loves interest. He loves everything Hex. You know, he has Hedron, and then I try to get him into Watsas, and he's like, nah, man. He's like, nah. And I'm just like, but the yield. And he's just like, but it's an NFT. It's not a token. God, people don't see the value yet. As soon as these things start being worth, you know, as Hex Icosa goes up, and then these things start just appreciating in price, because if somebody lists one for less dollars than what the Icosa value is, someone could just go in, buy it, sell all that Icosa on the market, and then burn another token.
Do you think anybody's gonna care about like what day it was like created, like minted on?
Yeah.
Do you think that is
Well,
that gonna
because
be?
that just affects like how much Icosa is in that NFT, right? Because that one day, like where all the Hedron was burnt, those got like an insane payout, but not all of them did. So you kind of have to check the blockchain, I think, to see what it's redeemable for.
Right. I know for myself, I missed that first day, that big chunk myself. But oh well. Just curious. Like if people would.
Nah, like
Like,
it matters a little bit, but to the percentage of like the amount, it's just going to get smaller and smaller. Eventually, people aren't going to care. It's just that one day had the huge payout. So like per million points, I think it was like 0.2 Icosa or something. So it's just yours just have a little bit less.
okay. Yeah. Right on.
So what do I do here? I got like last couple dollars that I shouldn't be putting in, but I am. Do I buy a Watsa or do I put into the Icosa pool or buy more Hedron? It's like, the choices. My Icosa pool is probably my smallest though. I have a lot more Watsas than I do in the Icosa pool.
Well, I mean, you would have to think of it in the point of view of the share rate moving. Do you take advantage of it today, knowing what the share rate is today through the Icosa pool? Or do you speculate on the availability of you getting a massive amount of Icosa yield through your Watsa that you know that you'll end up burning to take the Icosa to add to your pool later, which will be, kind of hinged on the share rate that has already moved out from underneath you. And I'm not talking about the hex share rate necessarily. I'm talking about the Icosa staking pool share rate that is the hex share rate, that it utilizes that function. Right. So, I mean, like I was saying before about Icosa holding its value, even though the hex share rate moves forward, for you to be able to go get hex and not worry about, losing out on being able to get the T share, as long as the price is what it is and we're at the ceiling price at that time, for you to be able to use the value of what the Icosa is to get the hex. But that is not stringent on the share rate on the Icosa pool. That doesn't allow you for the extra added value because you're already holding the Icosa. So that's up to you, bro, in that respect. Like, how much Hedron do you have? Are you satisfied with the yield that you get from that Hedron staking that you get for your APY? If not, then obviously make your choices accordingly. As you said that your Icosa was the lowest one, you may be able to put yourself into a position where it outshines the other ones right now as well. So that's really
it's a hard one.
It's a loaded
It's
question.
a hard one. It is, because I have, I think, 3 times the amount of money in Watsas, and I have like 20 times the money in Hedron compared to the Icosa pool. And like, I just like Watsas over the Icosa staking pool, even though it's awesome. But like, that's just me. But I'm like starting to think now, like, oh, dude, did I not put enough in there? If this becomes mainstream, even amongst just the hex community, like where people start like, they just want to play the share game. Boy, having a nice position in Icosa, the amount of Icosa and Hedron that you're going to yield over time through all the auctions, people are going to want. I think more people are going to send HSIs to the contract, and all of that Hedron goes to the Icosa stakers. It's like, having a position in there for like a year or two compared to just buying the Hedron and then just leaving in the stake. It's hard. It's really hard.
So if I, being that I'm, staked in the Hedron pool, I'm also staked in the Icosa pool, and I also have Wats's. I have to consider to myself, at least, if I was to have a short-term, mid-term, long-term, like objective, like thought process on it, on how I would be with my own. Obviously, every single one of us objectively are going to be thinking psychologically different as far as like how we're set. I would have to say that the Wattses, God, I shouldn't. Now I'm going against you know what? I should just be like, burn your shit. It's terrible. Your dick's getting smaller. The more you have, right? Or some stupid shit, right? However, it's so tough because you can't, because it's so damn good because of these bonuses, right? As people see that their minimum stake length is done and they start seeing all this yield, it's going to be so hard for them
Not to emerge at the end.
Not that, but just to end stake after their term is done, right? Like when it comes to the end, that is the decision. Like, how much has the share rate moved in the term that you had to have as your minimum? Now, do you even end it, right? Or do you just add to it? Do you make all of them long-term plays and you didn't think about it enough because you did have one of them as your short term? And that comes to the point of why people would consider this waterfall strategy, to have other wallets that have smaller amounts with shorter terms to give you more options. So when you come to that point in time with your big wallet, when your term is now, you can end it and take your yield and get 100% of your principal back and all of your yield, your interest that you got in doing the whole process. Do you make that decision and actually do it and take the yield and go put it into the other staking pool to try to gain that percentage? I think that's going to be really tough for people not to, and to just hold onto it and just know that the share rate that they had is going to mean that they're actually jumping up the ladder further than everybody else that's adding to their stakes too, right? Or not adding, but actually ending and restarting their stake to add to another one of their staking pools. They have to restart it again at a different share rate, meaning that those who didn't stop them and just added to them at whatever average it would have been to the addition, right? Because it also uses the share rate as it moves forward too, right? You don't just keep your original share rate through the whole entire every time you add, which I think some people are confused about that. Like on day one, if you went and made a stake and it was that share rate, and then you rode that share rate for 90 days, and then you went and added to it, but the share rate is now different, it's going to use the new share rate with the amount that you added, not the amount that you had. I mean, the amount that you originally had will still continue to earn yield off of the original share rate, but whatever you add,
those stake points are set.
Yeah, it's almost like a different set of stake points that you have that gets added to that yield that you added to, which, I mean, that's the thing. Do I take all of my yield and put it at this new share rate, or do I just continue to just build onto it with this new share rate that I have on it, giving me this advantage against the people who did actually end the stakes and add to another one and then restart again with all of their yield at a new share rate? It means that those who didn't just keep marching up the stairs getting more yield, right? So how many people that are going to come to this conclusion, and actually have this talk with themselves, like I just kind of did right now, right? In the reality of how everything works, like, where am I losing an advantage that I could have kept? Was I even in an advantage in the first place? I guess you'd have to understand that too. And where was it? You need to recognize these things before you can actually react or act to them, right? Some people are just going to be like, oh, well, I don't have to worry about an EES fee that came to the end of the term. I'm going to take my yield just like hexagons do, because they have a 14-day thing where they have to. They're forced to make that decision. There's no options after that other than good accounting. But generally, there's like other reasons why you use that accounting. For tax reasons, maybe potentially the beginning or end of the year for one, right? Or gas costs, I guess, as another. Right. But now we don't have any of those worries about S-load function shenanigans with Icosa and Hedron staking. There will never be a problem with gas issues with this staking protocol that's added on to Hex. So that's another big giant bonus that's added into the Hex ecosystem of things that are built with it, in my opinion. But yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's decisions.
I feel so bad for that guy Brennan who he made a stake every week for like 15 years, and now they're all basically useless.
Or maybe his copies on Pulse Chain.
Pulse chain is the most important thing for all of this right now. As long as that can come out, right? Hex can, like, if it doesn't come out, Hex is destroyed and done. And
No, I don't agree with that. Like, I think that even if we had to stay on ETH, like Hex would probably still thrive.
right on. That's good attitude, man.
I like maybe not. Like maybe I'm dumb, but like I like Pulse Chain's obviously going to help. Like lower end stake fees sound awesome because if not, you're going to have a lot of money, and like that makes a lot of those like little shitter like 15-year stakes like with like less than 1,000 hex, less than certain amounts, just like not really be able to like they just kind of get burnt because they're not worth the gas.
I think that Vitalik and his team have 12 more years to figure out sharding before it actually becomes like a thing that people need to actually be like, oh, it's all over for Hex. And that's just my opinion. I mean, there are maybe some good points with the thought process of what the whole system state just said. And there are some genuine concerns for those types of things as well. But I mean,
If Pulse chain doesn't come out, Hex is going with it. Period.
See, Hex was doing things that were far surpassing people's thought processes and were possible before Pulse Chain was even a thought in the first place. So it's hard.
No one's gonna put a dime in if Pulse chain doesn't come out. It
No.
would be done. It would be destroyed.
Oh.
Richard Hart would be on the run, right? And just yeah.
I mean, launching a new network isn't that insane. So many people have done it, so I think it's going to happen. Like no matter what. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I especially now because we're just forking over the current stuff. Like I saw a meme the other day. I know coding's much harder than this, but to be nice, like to joke about it, it's like he said dev a pulse chain dev keyboard, and it literally had Control C and V, like copy paste. Like it's going to happen.
Another counterpoint to that is that every day that Pulse Chain doesn't launch us, we weed out more hexagons that don't actually believe in the project, which might actually be good for the project because you have more less selling pressure later on.
Honestly, I'm done selling hex. Like I'll be real. Like my hex stakes are just producing me hedron. This is like that's the entire game now. Why sell your hex? You just sell your hedron that you mint every day.
It's kind of game over with Hex already. We have 20 to 100,000 people who have 50 to 200 to 1,000 X, and they're all married to it for 15 years. There's really, like, short of like nuclear fallout, nobody's gonna let this Hex die. Like,
Do I still wear my hex shirt, dude? You guys think like just because we're in a bear market, like I don't wear like my hex shirt? Like everyone's wearing that, right? Like we like I don't know. This is something special. This entire ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm just saying if, right?
Yeah, it's just like it's a new network. Yeah.
That Mike doesn't take his Hex shirt off. I heard it's actually pretty gross.
There was a point in where I literally looked at myself and I was like, dude, like I had sick gains with Hex and I was literally just wearing like a whole bunch of Hex shirts that I made from Vistaprint. And like I was like, all right, and I went clothes shopping because it was that bad. Like my friends were even saying, like, dude, are you wearing the same shirt every day? It's like, no, dude, I just have 10 of them and I wear them each day of the week.
Now you guys are probably
Actually,
thinking,
I actually just thought of a really good marketing campaign. Like you could, nah, I'm not gonna say. Okay, I'll say it. You know how like, yeah, just sponsor cam girls. That's all I'm gonna say, really.
always comes back to porn. Always.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's millions of people watching porn on OnlyFans, and they will do anything. Like, you could give them $100. Here, wear a Hex T-shirt. You know, like on every stream, and
I was wondering why, like, so in the Twitch space, Twitch is really affecting payout of users. We have like thousands of hungry kids for sponsors. Like, I was always wondering why we didn't do like Hex.com sponsors of like I don't know, like video game like streamers and stuff. I think that's a thing that we should consider. Those kids are they're desperate.
I think a lot of those kids that are streamers are on like things like Twitch, and Twitch has its own like licensing agreement things that doesn't allow those types of things.
but you know, like you see these videos on YouTube, these clips of streamers just reading the text that you know, somebody commented, and somebody could just, you know, send a subscription or whatever that says, "Hey, I made 50x on Hex.com," and then clip that and put it on YouTube.
That is a good point. That is a pretty good point, that we could have all those types of things, or even like what you were saying about the porn thing, like maybe pop-up ads that happen on on things like that. Like you're just trying to get your rocks off, and all of a sudden Hex 38% APY pops up on your screen.
Yeah, and then it's forever anchored in your mind whenever you have sex. You will think of Hex.com.
Yeah. Sorry, I think we've now partially devolved into crayon eating.
You know what's astonishing when you look at Hedron and you like know how small of a market this is? Like motherfuckers like with like 10 billion Hedron like will do a trade and they're considered a whale in the system. 10 billion Hedron is now like what? Like $37,000. That's not a lot to be like on the whale watch. Now when a billion tokens goes to like $1 million, now you're kind of a whale.
Yeah, I think the Staker app did it pretty well. Like to understand like holding 1% of the supply of the token, it's technically like you are a whale, like the biggest animal in the ocean, right? And then 0.1% being a shark, more than reasonable. And you can actually apply that logic across to every single token, as far as seeing like analyzing risk to the holders of the tokens in the amounts in which they have. It's a really good way to look at it. And us in Hex have the Staker app to like refer to like show these things, but they kind of made those metrics up, really. And they kind of used and established them as their own for something that we can utilize in our community as a fun, playful pet type of thing that people like to be able to call themselves a turtle or a dolphin or a crab or whatever it is. You know, it's fun. But the metric is pretty neat. And so when you have people that come in and they're like, oh, you know, $1 billion does sound like a lot. And sometimes $30,000 is a lot of money to certain people, depending on where they come from, that could be like something what they would consider like whale-ish to them. Like how many wallets are all whales? It'd be like, well, there's 20,000 wallets, and well, I guess 10,000 of them are whales, you know? So I mean, it's kind of based off of that perspective of some of those people, right? And who's to say any different, I guess, right? So that's all I had to say about that. But it is neat. It is cool to use as a metric.
You know, when I'm a fanboy through and through of this entire thing. Richard Hart, everything. Obviously Watts a life. And but like, you know, Richard going in being just such kind of like just such a cocky asshole about it, which I find funny. But it just shows like I like it's an easy read for me where it's like, wow, he really believes that like Hex can just go do Hex things, I think is how he phrased it, while everything else dies. And hearing him just say it in just such a cocky ass way, like where he's just trying to like bother you with his like, you know what I'm saying? He's just like, duh, like don't be surprised. Like and then being here. It's just like this is what he's talking about.
I think this is something that literally only will happen once in history, where something is created, which was so revolutionary that anyone who tries to repeat it is just, they might as well just join on the team, and they're wasting their time if they're trying to repeat it.
Kind of like making like Litecoin or something like that, and then trying to leech off the success off the same code kind of thing, or the same idea, or like circumstances.
It's pretty much like you can't copy paste the code, otherwise you have a lawsuit. So you have to try to figure out how it's done, and how the share rate uses the ROI of the next ending stake to move forward to make sure that they don't gain that advantage. Is, I believe that people call it a quadratic equation that they kind of use, and they had to figure out that, like, fine tune it in certain ways and do all sorts of different types of things to see how it can affect the ecosystem over any period of time, and then run those mechanics and see where it eventually breaks, right? And even the current hex code, after a certain period of time, I think it's hundreds of years down the road, that it does kind of like break to a point where it kind of resets itself back to the original T-share rate again at 10,000 hex per T-share. And they've already ran it, and they know that that's the case. But I mean, at that point, none of us are going to be alive. Well, unless longevity is like a thing, which would be kind of neat. So hopefully it was set.
So you're telling me I'm going to have even more shares in 200 years?
Well, I mean, you're going to have more. You're going to have more yield by tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
I think I've got a good hold on the math. I think I studied it really well, and I got a math background. So what's going to happen in 15 years is the amount of total shares in the system is going to shrink dramatically. And that means that it will take less shares to get the same amount, the same rate of yield. So yeah, I think eventually there'll be no more T-shares for sure, but we probably will get comparable yields, and that yield will, like, I think that stakes which are like a Quattro Cinco stake, which was made 3 years from now, might actually perform better than a Quattro Cinco stake that's made today, because one that's made today has less area under the curve after day Quattro Cinco, which, when the yield is just going to explode on that day.
Or at least 14 days after 5555. hopefully.
Yeah, I'm thinking like I might make a bunch of quattros. Like I'm making quattro cinco steak. Like I actually every time I end a steak, I resteak like a third of it for quattro cinco, and that way I have about the same T-shares as I do as I did when the whole thing started. Because you get 3 times as many T-shares. It's only been 2 years, so those steaks that are ending right now actually get like they get a bonus equal to the amount that they lost. Um, but yeah, anyways, I think that those steaks are going to perform really well.
I would have to agree. So you're saying like after the 15 years and there's less shares in the system, that means the chances of the share rate moving forward, because the next ROI, the highest one, is actually coming to fruition, or a lot of them are at that point in time, it's going to shove the share rate further forward faster, meaning that B shares will become very important. M shares may become very important shortly after that, through the next
Yeah,
years
so
after.
like the share rate, I'm really like that kind of confuses me. The share rate, I understand like the concept behind it, and I like thought about it, for days or weeks, but the way I'm thinking about it is just the amount of T shares, which is about 10 million or something. Um, maybe there's something I don't know about the system that's going on behind the scenes. Maybe the OA address has some, I don't know, something going on there. But I'm expecting on that year, the 15th year, for the amount of T shares to just basically evaporate into nothing, which means that, yeah, maybe having one T share in that year will pay better than 100 T shares did the year before. I don't know. I don't know what exactly the math is going to look like, because you're kind of predicting what people are going to act like in the future, how the OA is going to act 5 years from now. But I know for sure that a lot of T shares are going to fucking evaporate in the 15th year. And right now, people are undervaluing what a Quattro Cinco steak is going to perform in that year. And for
So start
15
a
years,
steak like a year before the
yeah,
Quattro Cinco day.
yeah, actually, probably the day before Quattro Cinco would probably be like one of the best days to make a 15-year steak.
Just because so many are coming out on the 5,555th day.
It's not. I don't think there's that many, but there are a lot of fucking T shares that are just disappearing. Like, let me go look at Hex Vision. What's the biggest Quattro Cinco steak there is? That's gonna evaporate.
Please to make sure that you're doing it the day before God Whale's billion hex 555 comes to an end. That'll be the highest ROI out of all of them.
Never looked. I guess that's probably the biggest steak there is, huh?
And I think that's what he does is he'd buy a billion and then stake it. So I think he's only got like 4 or 5 of them. So it's pretty easy to look at his stuff.
Yeah, that's what I did the day before Big Payday. I made a giant Quattro Cinco steak, and that might be. I guess it's possible that there will be a better day than that, depending on how the stakes are set up on the 15th year. But that might have been the best day to make a Quattro Cinco steak of all the days.
I plan on hoarding HSIs and then waiting for the stakes to finish and then combining them all into one giant massive stake. Yep.
And then maybe, well, at that point, you'll be able to allocate like your own picture to it when you tokenize it, and you can have it be a picture of Voltron.
The Voltron, and then just like put it up in your living room and be like, yeah, this painting, this yields me $1,000 a day, $2,000 a day.
Right, with your powers combined, you are now Voltron.
Hey, what? Hey, Watts, a price advisor. What was your other? What did you change your name from?
Mike. Remember, I'm the one with the blue healer dog. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
the one
why
with
I
the
knew.
Challenger.
Yeah, I was wondering. No, I got rid of the Challenger, but yeah.
Oh no, I'm the one who I got one during the bull market.
Oh, I got rid of mine.
Oh really?
Yeah, I had one too.
I love mine. I love it.